The Void Bringer. The Nemesis hung in orbit like a dark scar against the stars, 20 kilometers of matte black hull that absorbed light rather than reflected it. From certain angles, it seemed to vanish entirely, becoming a void in space that swallowed the starlight behind it. This was no accident of design. The massive warship was humanity's ultimate answer to a universe that had proven far more hostile than anyone could have imagined. Captain Diana Reeves stood on the observation deck, her reflection ghostly in the reinforced viewport. At 43, she wore the weight of command in the lines around her eyes and the permanent furrow between her brows. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, a few silver strands catching the dim light of the tactical displays behind her. "Status report," she said, not turning as Commander Jackson entered the deck. She didn't need to see him to know his expression. The same grim determination they all carried. "All systems nominal, Captain," Jackson replied, his voice steady despite what they both knew was coming. "The quantum cascade is at 98% charge. Targeting systems are locked on the primary settlement clusters. The evacuation order has been transmitted on all frequencies for the past 72 hours. Diana closed her eyes briefly. Any response? None that our translators can interpret as compliance. Their communications remain difficult to decipher. The Veloth were the seventh alien species humanity had encountered since breaking the light barrier in 2189. Unlike the others, they refused all standard diplomatic protocols. Their crystalline vessels had appeared without warning in 3 colony systems, obliterating orbital stations before ground forces could even mobilize. 8 million lives lost in 6 days. The United Earth government had no choice but to deploy the Nemesis. There would be no more Proxima Centauri massacres, no more New Eden genocides. Humanity had learned its lesson after the Kalian War. Survival in this galaxy demanded overwhelming force. "Captain," came a new voice. Dr. Elena Cheng, the ship's xenolinguistics specialist, approached with a data tablet clutched tightly in her hands. Her face was pale, eyes darting nervously between Diana and the planet below. "I've been running additional analyses on the Veloth transmissions." "And?" Diana asked, already suspecting she wouldn't like the answer. "There are inconsistencies in our earlier translations. The patterns we initially identified as threats might actually be." "Might," Diana interrupted, her voice flat. "Possibilities and maybes don't bring back 8 million dead, Doctor." She turned to face the smaller woman fully. "Do you have definitive proof that our assessment is wrong?" Elena hesitated, then looked down at her tablet. "No, Captain. The language structure is unlike anything we've encountered. I need more time too." "Time is precisely what we don't have," Diana said. "The Veloth vessels that attacked our colonies have regrouped. Intelligence suggests they're preparing another offensive. We can't risk millions more lives on linguistic uncertainties." The observation deck fell silent, the only sound the soft hum of the ship's systems. Below them, Veloth Prime rotated slowly, its violet oceans and emerald landmasses painted with the lights of civilization. From orbit, it looked peaceful, beautiful, even. "Commander Jackson," Diana said finally, her voice steady. "Begin final countdown." Jackson nodded. On the bridge, Captain Diana Reeves settled into her command chair. The tactical displays showed the planet below in stark relief, targeting markers highlighting population centers, military installations, and industrial complexes. The Veloth were an advanced civilization, perhaps even more advanced than humanity in some ways. Their crystalline technology was still not fully understood, which made them all the more dangerous. 5 minutes to firing sequence, announced the ship's AI in its calm, feminine voice. Diana pressed a button on her chair. "This is Captain Reeves to all hands. What we do today is not done lightly or without cause. The Veloth struck without provocation or warning. They showed no mercy to our civilian populations. They have ignored all attempts at communication and rejected our evacuation orders." She paused. choosing her next words carefully. History will judge our actions today. Let it show that we acted to protect humanity from extinction, not out of hatred or vengeance. Reeves out. The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. Was this really protection, or had humanity become what it feared most? The question lingered, unanswered. 3 minutes to firing sequence. Dr. Elena Cheng burst onto the bridge, her security escort close behind. "Captain, please, I've made a breakthrough with the translations. The Velith communications, they're not threats, they're warnings." Diana turned slowly. "Warnings about what, Doctor?" "About something they call the hunger between stars. They believe it's headed toward human space. They were trying to evacuate our colonies, not attack them." Elena's voice cracked with desperation. "Our sensors interpreted their energy signatures as weapons fire, but they were scanning for this entity." Commander Jackson stepped forward. "That's speculation, Doctor. We saw the destruction with our own eyes." "Their technology operates differently than ours," Elena insisted. "The energy discharge from their scans may have triggered accidental reactions with our colonial power grids. Please, Captain, if I'm right, we're about to commit genocide against a species that was trying to save us." Diana felt the weight of command press down on her shoulders like a physical burden. Billions of lives hung in the balance, both human and Velith. If she aborted the mission and Elena was wrong, humanity might face extinction. If she proceeded and Elena was right, the blood of an innocent civilization would stain human hands forever. 1 minute to firing sequence. "Show me your evidence, Doctor," Diana said, her voice tight. Elena hurriedly transferred her findings to the main display. Patterns resolved themselves, linguistic markers highlighted in different colors. Diana wasn't a xenolinguist, but even she could see the shift in interpretation when viewed through Elena's new paradigm. 30 seconds to firing sequence. Diana stood, her decision made. Abort firing sequence. Stand down from battle stations. Jackson looked at her in shock. "Captain, I said abort, Commander. That's an order." Diana turned to communications. "Open all channels. Broadcast on all frequencies. Use Dr. Cheng's translation matrix." "What's the message, Captain?" asked the communications officer. Diana took a deep breath. "Tell them we understand. Tell them we're listening now. And ask them what this hunger between stars is." As the message was transmitted, the bridge crew watched in tense silence. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, the sensor officer called out, "Captain, Velith vessels approaching. 5. No, 7 ships. Defensive posture only," Diana ordered. "No aggressive actions." The crystalline ships, beautiful and alien, took up positions around the Nemesis. They made no hostile moves, instead beginning to transmit data, massive amounts of it. "They're sending star charts," Elena said, wonder in her voice as she analyzed the incoming information. "Tracking movements of something massive. It's consumed 3 star systems already, according to their data." Diana stared at the display, ice forming in her stomach as the implications became clear. The Velith hadn't been enemies at all. They had been trying to warn humanity about a threat that dwarfed their petty interspecies conflicts. "It seems we have a common enemy," she said quietly. As if in response, the largest Velith vessel transmitted a new message. Elena translated in real time. "The hunger comes. Stand together or fall alone." Diana nodded, though the aliens couldn't see her. "Inform Earth Command. Tell them we're going to need more ships, and prepare to coordinate defense strategies with the Velith." The Nemesis, designed to bring death to alien worlds, now found itself at the vanguard of an alliance that might be humanity's only hope for survival. The Reckoning. 3 days after the near genocide of the Velith, the Nemesis hovered in formation with the crystalline fleet, its weapon systems powered down but ready. The combined armada orbited a lifeless star system at the edge of Velith space, the most recent victim of what the aliens called the hunger between stars. Captain Diana Reeves stood before the holographic display in the ship's conference room, surrounded by her senior officers and two Velith representatives. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their translucent bodies refracting light in hypnotic patterns as they moved. Their faces, if they could be called that, were arrangements of crystal facets that shifted and realigned as they communicated. This was Solus IV, said the Velith delegate that had introduced itself as Harmony of Light. Its words came through the translator with an eerie, chime-like quality. A colony of 15 million souls. Now nothing remains but dust and echoes. The hologram showed a planetary system stripped bare, planets reduced to scattered debris, asteroids pulverized to cosmic dust. Even the stars seemed dimmer somehow, as if something had siphoned away its very essence. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Diana asked, studying the devastation. "Your data suggests something capable of consuming entire star systems, but our scans detect no physical entity." "The hunger is not matter as you understand it," replied the second Velith, who called itself Prism Through Void. "It exists partially in what your scientists might call dark energy space. It feeds on the fundamental forces that bind matter together." Commander Jackson leaned forward, his weathered face creased with concern. "Are you saying this thing eats gravity? Stars? How is that even possible?" Dr. Elena Cheng, now serving as both xenolinguist and scientific liaison, stepped closer to the hologram. "If I'm interpreting correctly, the hunger is something like a living dimensional rift, a tear in space-time that consumes the energy binding matter together. A cosmic predator," Diana said quietly, "and it's headed toward human space next." Harmony of Light's crystalline form shifted in what might have been a nod. "Our calculations give your core worlds approximately 60 of your days before the hunger reaches them. We have been tracking it for what you would call centuries. It has destroyed 17 civilizations that we know of." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had nearly eradicated a potential ally against an existential threat, and only by the narrowest of margins had catastrophe been averted. "Can it be stopped?" Diana finally asked. Prism Through Void's facets realigned in a pattern that the translator interpreted as uncertainty. "We have tried. Many methods, many weapons. The hunger only grows stronger with each system it devours." "But you have a theory," Diana pressed, reading between the lines. "Something you haven't tried yet." The two Velith seemed to communicate silently between themselves, crystal facets flashing in patterns too subtle for the human eye to interpret meaningfully. "Yes," Harmony of Light admitted. "We have observed that the hunger cannot cross certain energy barriers. We believe a sufficiently powerful quantum field might contain it, perhaps even reverse its expansion." Chief Engineer Malcolm Reed, who had been silent until now, suddenly straightened. "Like the field generated by our quantum cascade." All eyes turned to him. Diana felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what Malcolm was suggesting. The weapon was designed to destabilize matter at the quantum level. Malcolm continued, warming to his theory. "But the same principles could be reversed. Instead of causing quantum decay, we could generate a stabilizing field." "At what scale?" Jackson asked. The cascade was designed to target planets, not interstellar phenomena. Malcolm's expression grew grimmer. "We'd need to modify the system significantly. And even then, the power requirements would be enormous, more than the Nemesis could generate on its own." Harmony of Light stepped forward, its crystalline body catching the light. "Our vessels can channel energy in ways your technology cannot. Perhaps together." "A joint operation," Diana said, nodding slowly. "Human and Velith technology combined." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The very weapon that had nearly destroyed the Velith might now be there, and humanity's only hope. "I'll need to consult with Earth Command," Diana said finally, "and we'll need to run simulations, test the modifications before we commit. Time is not abundant," Prism Through Void reminded them. "The hunger moves swiftly." As the meeting adjourned, Diana found herself walking the corridors of the Nemesis with a strange sense of displacement. Crew members saluted as she passed, but their eyes held questions, and in some cases, doubt. Word had spread quickly about how close they had come to committing an atrocity. In her quarters, Diana stared at her reflection in the viewport. Outside, the Velith ships glittered like jewels against the darkness. How quickly enemies had become allies in the face of a greater threat. Her comm unit chimed. "Captain," came Malcolm's voice. "I've been reviewing the Velith data on the hunger with their engineers. There's something you should know." "Go ahead, Chief." "The energy signature of the hunger. It bears similarities to our quantum cascade technology. Not identical, but the underlying principles are uncomfortably close." Diana felt her blood run cold. "What are you saying, Malcolm?" There was a long pause before he answered. "I'm saying, Captain, that there's a non-zero possibility that the hunger is artificial in origin, and given the similarities to our technology, you think it might be human." Diana finished, the words feeling like ash in her mouth. "Not current human technology," Malcolm clarified quickly, "but perhaps future technology, or an unintended consequence of our quantum experimentation. The theoretical models always showed potential for dimensional instability at extreme power levels." Diana closed her eyes, trying to process the implications. "Keep this between us for now, Chief. Continue working with the Velith engineers on the modifications." After ending the communication, Diana sat in the darkness of her quarters, the weight of command feeling heavier than ever. If Malcolm's theory was correct, humanity might have inadvertently created the very threat that was now consuming the galaxy. The Nemesis itself could be a precursor to something far worse. Days passed in a flurry of activity as human and Velith engineers worked to modify the Nemesis's weapon systems. The crystalline aliens moved with unsettling grace through the human vessel, their presence causing a mixture of fascination and unease among the crew. Lieutenant Kira Navarro found herself assigned as liaison to a Velith engineer working in the quantum cascade chamber. The alien, who called itself Refraction in Darkness, worked tirelessly, its crystalline appendages manipulating energy fields with extraordinary precision. "May I ask you something?" Kira ventured during a rare break in their work. The Velith's facets realigned in what she had come to recognize as an affirmative gesture. "If we hadn't stopped the attack on your homeworld, what would your people have done?" Refraction in Darkness was silent for a moment, crystal surface shimmering slightly. "We would have continued to warn you," it finally answered, "even as we died. The hunger is greater than any one species." Kira felt shame flush her cheeks. "I'm sorry for what we almost did. Misunderstanding is not malice," the Velith replied. "Now we understand each other better. Perhaps that understanding will save us all." The final modifications were completed just as the hunger's approach was detected at the edge of the Valorous system, the last buffer before human space. The combined fleet moved into position, the Nemesis at its center, surrounded by Velith vessels arranged in a precise geometric pattern. On the bridge, Captain Diana Reeves gave the order to power up the modified quantum cascade. Throughout the massive ship, energy levels rose to unprecedented heights as the Velith vessels channeled their own power into the human warship. "Quantum field stabilizing," reported Malcolm from engineering, his voice strained. "Velith energy integration at 93%. Sensors detecting dimensional distortion ahead," called out the science officer. "The hunger is accelerating toward us." Diana stood from her command chair, facing the view screen as space itself seemed to warp and twist. Stars dimmed and flickered as something impossibly vast approached, not a physical entity, but a distortion in reality itself, a moving void that consumed light and matter with equal indifference. "All vessels in position," Commander Jackson confirmed. "Quantum field at maximum capacity." Diana took a deep breath. "Activate the cascade." The Nemesis shuddered as the modified weapon discharged, not a beam of destruction this time, but an expanding field of stabilizing energy. The Velaf ships glowed with internal light as they amplified and shaped the field, extending it toward the approaching anomaly. For a moment, it seemed to work. The distortion slowed, its edges becoming more defined as the quantum field interacted with it. Then, without warning, the hunger seemed to pulse, sending a shockwave of energy back through the field. Field integrity failing. Malcolm shouted over the comm. The hunger is adapting, absorbing our energy. Diana grabbed the edge of her console as the ship rocked violently. Reroute emergency power. Maintain the field. Captain, came Elena's voice, tight with fear and realization. The hunger, it's responding to our field like it recognizes it. Malcolm's theory might be correct. Diana watched in horror as two Velaf vessels were caught in a secondary distortion, their crystalline structures shattering instantly as the hunger consumed them. The remaining alien ships adjusted their formation, compensating for the loss. The field is collapsing, Malcolm reported grimly. We can't contain it. Diana made her decision in an instant. All vessels, fall back to secondary positions. Prepare for emergency protocol Omega. Commander Jackson looked at her sharply. Captain, that protocol isn't authorized except in extreme circumstances. Yes, I'm aware. Diana's voice was steel. The quantum cascade was created as a last resort weapon. This is that resort, Commander. Understanding dawned in Jackson's eyes. You're going to overload the cascade, create a controlled quantum singularity. If we can't contain the hunger, maybe we can give it something it can't digest. Diana confirmed. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the escape pods and auxiliary craft. Coordinate with the Velaf for pickup. As the evacuation order was given, Diana opened a channel to Harmony of Light's vessel. Our plan has failed. We're implementing an alternative strategy, but you need to get your remaining ships to a safe distance. The Velaf's response came quickly. We understand your intention, Captain Reeves. It is honorable, but likely futile. The hunger has consumed similar attempts before. This is different, Diana insisted. Our quantum technology seems to have a unique relationship with the hunger. If Malcolm's theory is correct, there might be a resonance we can exploit. After a pause, Harmony of Light responded. We will maintain a perimeter, but we will not abandon you completely. Some of us will remain to assist. Diana wanted to argue but knew there was no time. The hunger was advancing again, recovering from the temporary setback. Thank you, she said simply. Throughout the Nemesis, organized chaos reigned as crew members rushed to evacuation points. Lieutenant Kira Navarro found herself helping Refraction in Darkness load data cores into an escape pod. You should go, she told the alien. Your knowledge is too valuable to lose. As is yours, the Velaf replied. Yet you stay. Kira smiled grimly. Engineering crew is essential personnel. Someone has to help overload the cascade. Refraction in Darkness's facets shifted in what Kira had come to recognize as concern. The resonance theory your chief engineer proposed. If correct, the resulting reaction could be more catastrophic than anticipated. What do you mean? If your quantum technology truly shares properties with the hunger, forcing them into conflict could create something worse than either. Before Kira could respond, the ship shuddered violently. The hunger was getting closer. On the bridge, now staffed by only the most essential personnel, Diana watched the escape pods and shuttles streaming away from the Nemesis, protected by an escort of Velaf vessels. All non-essential crew evacuated, Captain, Jackson reported. Engineering reports cascade overload preparations at 80%. Diana nodded, her face grim. Begin final countdown. 10 minutes to overload. As the minutes ticked down, Diana opened a ship-wide channel to address the skeleton crew that remained. To those of you still aboard, I won't pretend this isn't a one-way mission. The Nemesis was built to protect humanity at all costs. Today, that's exactly what we're doing. Not just for humanity, but for all sentient life threatened by the hunger. She paused. It's fitting that a weapon built out of fear will end its service in an act of sacrifice. Reeves out. With 3 minutes remaining on the countdown, Malcolm's voice came over the comm, tense but controlled. Captain, we've detected a structural change in the hunger. It's reacting to our preparations somehow, reconfiguring itself. Elaborate, Diana demanded. It's forming something like a focal point, directing itself specifically toward our cascade chamber, almost as if it recognizes us, Diana finished, or recognizes itself. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Warning klaxons blared as structural integrity alarms sounded throughout the vessel. Outer hull breach on decks 15 through 20. Jackson called out. The hunger is literally tearing us apart. Diana made her final decision. Override the countdown. Initiate cascade overload now. Deep in engineering, Malcolm and his remaining team worked frantically to comply. Lieutenant Navarro's hands flew over her console, bypassing safety protocols and redirecting power flows. Beside her, refraction in darkness had refused to leave. Its crystalline form now interfaced directly with the human systems, adding Velith precision to their desperate work. Power at critical levels, Kira reported. Containment fields failing. Malcolm looked at her, then at the Velith. It's now or never. The massive energy buildup in the quantum cascade reached its breaking point. As the safeguards failed, and the reaction began to collapse in on itself, time seemed to slow. On the bridge, Diana Reeves stood facing the view screen, watching as the hunger enveloped the forward section of her ship. In those final moments, she thought she saw a pattern in the chaos, something almost familiar. "It is us," she whispered. The Nemesis exploded in a burst of quantum energy unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The destructive force collided with the hunger, creating a reaction that rippled across space-time itself. Where ship and cosmic predator met, reality itself seemed to fold inward, creating a nexus point of impossible energy. For a moment, the hunger seemed to pause, as if confused by what it had encountered. Then, impossibly, it began to contract, drawn into the quantum singularity created by the Nemesis's sacrifice. From safe distance, the evacuated crew and their Velith allies watched in awe as the hunger between stars was pulled inexorably into the collapsing quantum field. The distortion that had consumed entire civilizations spiraled inward, compressed into an ever-shrinking point of light that finally winked out of existence. In the silence that followed, human and Velith alike stared at the empty space where moments before, annihilation had seemed certain. Aboard the Velith command vessel, Harmony of Light addressed the survivors. Captain Reeves and her crew gave themselves to save us all. Their sacrifice will be remembered in the crystalline archives for all time. Dr. Elena Cheng, the highest-ranking human officer to survive, stepped forward. What exactly happened? Did we destroy the hunger, or just displace it? Neither, perhaps, Harmony of Light answered. Your quantum technology and the hunger shared a fundamental nature. In their collision, they may have canceled each other out, or transformed into something else entirely. Something better, we hope, Elena said quietly. As the combined fleet of survivors set course for Earth, they carried with them not just the news of their narrow victory, but the beginnings of a true alliance forged in crisis. Humanity and the Velith, nearly enemies, now bound by shared sacrifice, and the memories of those who had given everything to save both their peoples. And somewhere in the vast emptiness where the Nemesis had made its last stand, a new kind of energy began to form. Not hungry destruction this time, but something that might, in time, bring life instead of death to the stars it touched. The legacy of the planet killer had become one of creation, not destruction, a reckoning that had transformed the very nature of its power.